There is a wealthy neighborhood in Seoul called Daechidong. If you ask Koreans to name the place that best represents the country's obsession with education, this is probably the first answer you will hear. Here's some of the nation's most prestigious private academies, known as hagwons, require 4-year-old children to take entrance exams. Yes, 4 years old. And parents who want their children to get into those academies often send them to other academies first, just to prepare for the entrance test. It sounds unbelievable, but it's real. Korean parents are famous for taking education seriously, very seriously. Many devote enormous amounts of time, money, and energy to helping their children get into the country's best universities. Some even postpone saving for retirement because they believe their children's education comes first. And despite Korea's rapidly shrinking school-age population, households spent 29.2 trillion won, about 20 billion US dollars, on private education in 2024 alone. That was the highest amount ever recorded. Daechidong has become the symbol of this educational culture. Its streets are lined with some of Korea's most famous hagwons, attracting families from across the country. Children who grew up in this intensely competitive environment are often called daechi kids. For many parents, the goal is straightforward: medical school or one of Korea's elite universities. But Daechidong is not an exception. It's simply where the competition becomes impossible to ignore. Government data released in 2024 shows just how early the competition begins. Among Korean children under the age of 2, nearly 1 in 4 already receives some form of private education. By the age of 5, that number jumps to more than 80%. In total, households with 5-year-old children spend about 350 billion won every year on private education. The figure includes music lessons, sports, art classes, and workbook-based learning. But in neighborhoods like Daechidong, the competition often goes much further. Some preschoolers study English vocabulary and grammar that middle school students would normally learn. They take placement tests, they take entrance exams, and an entire industry has emerged simply to prepare children for those exams. Think about that for a moment. Children attend private academies, just get into other private academies. The competition doesn't stop there. Some of Daechidong's most advanced math programs teach lower elementary school students material that normally belongs in high school. Across Korea, children who receive private education spend on average of 7.6 hours every week in academies or private tutoring. But many Daechi kids spend much more. When school ends, their day isn't over. They move from one academy to another. Some attend one academy for basic math, another for advanced problem solving, and yet another for math competitions, all for a single subject. For some families, a child grades become more than academic results. They become a measure of the family's success. Admission to an elite university is no longer just a dream. It becomes an expectation. And if that expectation isn't met, some parents feel that they themselves have failed. The fear is powerful, but it raises an important question. Why? Why would so many parents willingly place themselves and their children under this kind of pressure? Is this simply an extreme obsession shared by a handful of wealthy families living in one neighborhood? Not at all. Daechidong is simply where the reality of Korean education is the easiest to see. To understand why, we have to look much further back. We have to look at modern Korean history. The answer isn't simply that Korean parents are ambitious, nor is this something that appeared overnight. The roots of today's education race go much deeper. To understand them, we need to look at how modern Korea was built. When Korea was liberated from Japanese colonial rule in 1945, there was little time to celebrate. The country was soon divided. Then came the Korean War. Cities were destroyed. Families were separated. Millions of people were displaced. For many Koreans, simply surviving was the priority. Yet, over the next 70 years, South Korea accomplished one of the most remarkable economic transformations in modern history. It went from a country dependent on foreign aid to one that now provides aid to developing nations. Few countries have changed so dramatically in such a short period of time. But unlike many wealthy countries, Korea had few natural advantages. There was no abundance of oil, no vast reserves of valuable minerals. Nearly 70% of the country is covered by mountains. Natural resources could not drive economic growth. So Korea invested in something else: its people. And education became one of the country's greatest national investments. The commitment is still visible today. According to the OECD, Korea spent 5.6% of its GDP on education, compared with the OECD average of 4.7%. Among people between the ages of 25 and 34, 71% have completed tertiary education. Across the OECD, the average is 48%. These numbers reflect something much deeper than government policy. They reflect a national belief. For generations, Korean parents believed that education could change a child's future. Many had lived through the war, poverty, and uncertainty. They owned little, but they believed that if they could educate their children might have a better life. Many parents sacrificed almost everything they had to make that happen. And for countless families, their sacrifice paid off. The children they raised became engineers, teachers, civil servants, entrepreneurs, scientists, and skilled workers. They helped transform South Korea into one of the world's leading economies. For millions of families, education wasn't simply a way to earn better grades. It was the path out of poverty. It was path into the middle class, and sometimes it completely changed the family's future. Success reinforced that belief. Parents saw education work with their own eyes, so when they raised children of their own, they followed the same path. After all, why wouldn't they? Education had already transformed one generation. It seemed only natural to believe it could transform the next. Even today, education remains one of Korea's greatest strengths. It has helped build one of the world's most highly educated workforces. It continues to support innovation, economic growth, and global competitiveness. Without that investment, modern Korea would likely look very different. But success also changed the rules. Years ago, education was mainly about getting ahead. Today, it's increasingly about not falling behind. As more and more families climbed the same ladder, that ladder became harder to climb. Admission to a top university became more competitive. The gap between success and failure appeared larger, and education gradually changed from an opportunity into a competition. Graduating from an elite university often meant more than receiving a diploma. It meant better career opportunities, higher income, greater social status, and access to influential professional networks. Universities such as Seoul National University, Yonsei University, and Korea University became symbols of success, not just because of their academic reputation, but because of the opportunities they could open. Education had helped build modern Korea, but somewhere along the way, the meaning of education began to change. It was no longer simply about creating opportunity. For many families, it became about protecting what they already had. And that was when another powerful force entered the picture: fear. If education once created opportunity, what keeps the competition going today? The answer is surprisingly simple: fear. Not fear of education itself, but fear of falling behind. For many Korean parents, university admissions are no longer seen as just another academic milestone. They are seen as a gateway to a child's future. A better university can mean better career opportunities. a better income, greater social mobility, and more secure life. Whether all of those beliefs are completely true is another question. What matters is that millions of parents believe they are. That belief is reinforced by reality. According to government data from 2024, households earning less than 3 million won a month spent about 200,000 won per child each month on private education. Households earning 8 million won or more spend around 700,000 won, more than 3 times as much. Research also points in the same direction. One study found that graduates from Korea's highest-ranked universities earned about 25% more than graduates from the lowest-ranked universities when they entered the workforce. By their early 40s, that gap had widened to roughly 50%. Of course, a university name alone doesn't determine someone's future. Individual ability, field of study, career choices, and the companies people work for all matter. But the relationship between educational background and economic success is strong enough that few parents are willing to ignore it. For parents who themselves experience upward mobility through education, the stakes feel even higher. Education changed their lives once. They naturally hope it will do the same for their children, and they worry about what happens if it doesn't. Their fear isn't simply that their children will earn less money, it's that the opportunities their family gained over decades might disappear in a single generation. The stability they worked so hard to build, the social standing they achieved, the chance for their children to move even further upward, all of it suddenly feels uncertain. That is why so many parents remain in the race, not because they enjoy it, not because they believe it's healthy, but because leaving the race feels even more dangerous than staying in it. Imagine you are watching every other family around you invest more time, more money, and more effort into their children's education. Would you be willing to do less, even if you believe the competition had become unhealthy? For many parents, the answer is no, because the risk doesn't fall on them, it falls on their children. In many ways, this resembles the nuclear arms race during the Cold War. Neither the United States nor the Soviet Union wanted an endless arms race, but neither side believed it could safely stop while the other continued. Private education in Korea often works the same way. Most families would probably prefer a less competitive system, but no one wants to be the first to step away. That fear shapes everyday life for many children. Some Daechi kids actually dislike weekends and school vacations, not because they don't enjoy free time, but because those are often the days when their academic schedules become even more demanding. School ends. Another day of studying begins. Academy after academy, subject after subject, week after week, year after year. For many parents, the greatest fear isn't simply that their child won't become a doctor or won't get into an elite university. It's the fear that one missed opportunity today could quietly shape the rest of their child's life, and that fear can be incredibly difficult to escape. Korea's economic rise has amazed the world. A country once devastated by war became one of the world's leading economies. Its companies became global brands. Its technology reached every corner of the world. Its music, films, and television dramas captured audiences across the globe. Few countries have transformed so dramatically in such a short period of time. It is an extraordinary success story. But every success comes with a price. For many Korean families, that price is measured in time, in money, in stress, and sometimes in childhood itself. Children spend years moving from one academy to another. Parents spend enormous amounts of money trying to create opportunities for their children. And many families live with the constant fear that falling behind today could shape their children's future forever. Ironically, Most Korean parents already know this system isn't healthy. They know children need time to rest, time to play, time to discover who they are. They know happiness cannot be measured by test scores alone, and they know that endless competition places tremendous pressure on both parents and children. So, why doesn't the competition stop? Because no parent wants their own child to become the one who falls behind. As long as everyone else keeps running, stopping feels less like a choice and more like a risk. Not a risk to themselves, a risk to their children. That may be the greatest paradox of Korean education. The competition continues not because parents care too little about their children, but because they care so much. The same education that helped lift millions of Koreans out of poverty now drives millions of families into an endless race. The same system that once created hope now also creates fear. That doesn't erase everything education has achieved, nor does it mean Korean parents are making irrational choices. In many ways, they are responding rationally to a system that rewards competition. Understanding Korean education isn't simply about understanding exams or private academies or elite universities. It's about understanding the hopes, the sacrifices, and the fears of the parents raising the next generation. Because once you understand those fears, Daechidong no longer looks like a strange neighborhood. It becomes a window into modern Korea. And perhaps that's one of the most important things to understand about this country. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about Korea's society, history, culture, and legal system, please consider subscribing to Understanding Korea. I'll see you in the next video.